daunting task. I did want to say nice things about Upland and PostUp. PostUp was the, I think, original sponsor of our Publishing Insider Summits and have been with us right along, and we appreciate that very much. There's Tony. Thanks, Tony. And now they've merged with Upland a few months ago, and we've gotten to know those people, and they're nice. I think it's going to be a great matchup. And this morning you're going to hear from Brandon Badger. He's the Senior Director of Professional Services for Upland.
Sorry.
All right, great. Couple quick stories before I get started. My daughter, I was thinking about her this morning, actually, as I was getting ready for this. She's really into theater, and say usually when I come to conferences and I see presentations, I don't remember a thing a week later. So maybe this will be one piece of advice. So as I was getting ready for this morning, she's really into theater, and I went to her first play about a year ago. She was the lead role in Alice in Wonderland. And my expectations could not have been any lower because I had never seen her perform before. So I went there, I saw her, and I was mind blown and just was like, holy crap, where did that come from? So I went up to her afterwards and I said, Natalie, how in the heck did you have the courage to get up in front of a room much bigger than this and be so engaging? Where in the world did that come from? And she said, Dad, whenever you're in front of people, 50% of the people are looking at their phones, 25% of them can't hear you, and the other 25% don't care what the heck you're saying. So I think that's true, and so I'm not going to take it personally for those of you that are looking at your computers and looking at your phones or whatever. It also made me wonder which one of those was I, as I was, she thought about me there. But anyway, moving on to another story real quick, and this will be a little bit more related to what we're going to talk about here. So when I was 16, my very first job, I grew up in a small town in North Dallas, and I worked at a restaurant, and the food, I swear to God, could not be any worse in this restaurant. I mean, it was terrible, absolutely terrible. But we had a lot of repeat customers. I mean, people would come back and come back and come back. And the manager of this restaurant, he beat into our head 2 principles when somebody came in the door. He said, you get to know the person, you shake their hand, and you meet them. And you say, hey, what's your name? John? John, nice to meet you. What's your name? Sally? Nice to meet you. Your kids? Billy? Oh, yeah. Where do you go to school? Clayton? Nice. That's great. And you seat them, and it's kind of like Dale Carnegie, for those of you that know, how to win friends and influence people. One of the sayings in that is that the sweetest sound a person can hear is their name. So it's kind of one of those principles. And then the other thing that you get to know is what it is that they ordered. So the next time they come in, you say, John, would you like that chicken fried steak again? Yeah, I loved it. Sally, you want that meatloaf again? Absolutely, I'll take that. And people's eyes would light up. They couldn't believe it, that you remembered what it is that they ordered. And it really worked in creating kind of like a Cheers, right? We all remember the show Cheers. So it was similar to that. So fast forward 25 years, now I've been working at PostUp 10 years, love some of the people sitting at that table. I've been working with them for a long time. Been working with publishers now for 10 years. Had a great time. Some of my customers are here in this room. And I'm blown away again because some of the folks that I've worked with have customers coming into their virtual storefronts every day, and they're not doing what I saw there. They're not capturing their name, and they're not capturing what it is those people are doing on their virtual storefronts or have that be their website. So they don't know anything first party about these people to create a customer experience to get them come back to their virtual storefront or their restaurant, whatever it may be, as I use that example. And they're not going to be able to get them to come back with that experience. So let's continue to move forward now. So as we look at some of the data that we have had working here at PostUp, we've seen that only 20% of our customers, or the data that we have, actually have actionable data on their customers. And I'd be interested to know, actually digging into that further, are they really doing anything interesting with that data, even though that they've collected it? But the other 80% everything is anonymous to them. And you may say, okay, well, no, I have actionable data. I've got some third-party cookies that I can do something with. But today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different when we talk about first-party data that we can collect. And what I want to do is see how can we take the technology that you already have, and turn that into, as you leave this conference, not have to make a significant investment to start collecting that first-party data that's there. So why do we want to do that? What are some use cases that are there for those of you that are in the media industry? So number one, we want to do some behavioral analysis. We want to say, somebody like myself, been married 15 years, I have 2 kids, I've got 2 dogs, I've got 2 turtles, and I've got a leopard gecko. So, how many people are out there if I want to do that type of analysis, how big's that segment set? So, but you may have some questions that you want to run to be able to identify those users and do some kind of segments. Number 2 is we want to do some targeted ad trafficking. So once we've identified those people, we want to sell that to an advertiser and run that against DFP, or we want to run that to an advertiser that actually wants to buy it. Number 3, we want to run some web personalization or email personalization with those users that we've identified. Number 4, we want to take those users and upload that into Facebook for a custom audience. Number 5, we want to optimize our paid traffic, which I'm sure a lot of you are doing. And number 6, if you have some type of life cycle campaign that you're running, maybe a paid subscription you're interested in doing, you could send that over to email and start to run some life cycle journeys. So these are great ideas. I'm sure everybody's excited, but maybe it seems a little daunting. So how do we actually make it happen? So this is the workflow that we've talked about, and that's where I talked about existing technology that you have in place. Because I know for publishers, as I said, I've been here 10 years, I talk to them, a lot of them tell me, Brandon, I love what you're talking about, but it sounds like a lot of work. And me getting some IT developer in place, that turned into a 2020 goal, and 2020 always means 2021. So how do I get that done this year? Well, the way that we talk about doing it is using some of the infrastructure you have there, and in this case, we're talking about Google Analytics, where you've got a mountain of data you're probably not taking advantage of in the best way that you could. So what we do is we take the email, which, PostUp is an email service provider, so what we do is we take that and use email as the true identity of that user. So once we take that email gets sent, that user clicks, that gets put into a custom dimension within Google Analytics, and we can start to build segments in Google Analytics off that. And there's a lightweight piece of JavaScript that we put in place on your website, which allows us to put those into those users into those custom dimensions. And then we have an API integration with Google Analytics where you can build those segments. So again, it's Brandon, the married person, who's viewing dog content if you've got some kind of lifestyle website. And we can pull those segments back in to identify those at the user level. So what makes email an interesting channel? So we can come in and check every single box up here. And some of you may say, well, I can do a few of these with push notifications, or I can do a couple of these through my Facebook page, or going through Twitter or whatever it may be, but email is unique because you can check every single one of the boxes that we have up here. So you can reach audiences directly at any time. We can control what they see without algorithms. I know a lot of us are frustrated with that, with Facebook. Number 3, we can monetize them even if they don't visit the website. Number 4, nurture them into paying subscribers, which I know a lot of you here are interested in rolling out some paid subscription products from discussions I've had. And number 5, we can identify specifically who these people are when they visit our website. And that's where we talk about that email click being the link or the identity into that user. And so what's cool here is that when we look at, let's say, Google Analytics, we may see multiple users because people are having multiple devices, and it starts to get daunting, but what we really want to do is bridge that down into one person. So, and that's how that And what we've seen looking at the data is that your Google Analytics on average is 2.4 users is what we've seen, 2.4 users. And that's because, I've got my phone, I'm on my desktop, maybe I'm doing private browsing. I went and I got a new phone. Well, the first thing I did when I got that new phone is I loaded my email. So that's why email is such a great identifier for somebody, right? So what we do when we base it on the post-up ID is it allows us to bring that all down into one person. And this is just a workflow chart where we see this post-up JavaScript that I talked about here in the middle. And once we've got that user identified, we can load that out into the left, create a Facebook custom audience, or push that out to the right, where Google Analytics, I'm sure you all know, has this native integration with Google Ad Manager, which allows you to go out into YouTube and their various networks. All native, something you could do today. So this is where we talk about the different targetable segments that you could have. So now we've got our linked user, right? So we've got somebody that is linked into Google Analytics. We want to go in and make something actionable on them. So let's get a quick show of hands. How many people in the room today are married, right? Cool, we got some people. How many people that are married have dogs? Keep your hands up. Okay, the audience just got a little bit smaller, but we still got a good size, right? Now, those of you that have websites, how many of you could run a campaign tomorrow to people that have that type of data on them, are married and have dogs, or have that kind of first-party data on people? So we got 1, 2, a shaky hand. Right, so this is what I'm talking about, is being able to take technology you already have and identify users specifically based upon the content they're engaging with and make that actionable without bringing in some new technology. So here's a specific use case, enough theory. So what we're talking about here is one of our customers, Apartment Therapy. So what they did with this process is they've got a newsletter, a real estate newsletter. And with that real estate newsletter, you can go as one specific page on their website. The numbers, frankly, for it were fairly pretty small on how many people had signed up for this real estate newsletter versus their main newsletter, which out daily is about 800,000 people, lots of folks. But somebody was interested, a brand was interested in going after their real estate folks, right? So what they wanted us to do, or the challenge was, how do we get the reach bigger? Nobody's interested in buying a newsletter of 5,000 people. So even no matter how segmented it is. So how do we increase that reach? So what we did was what we've been talking about here is how many people are on their main newsletter list that are hyper engaged with real estate content. And through this integration with Google Analytics, they were able to find out, and about 10x, or don't have all the numbers memorized, but greatly increase the list size that they had there through their main newsletter list that people were viewing their real estate content. So all this is actionable data that you can go in and work with. Another one that I think is cool is, I'm sure nowadays you all would agree, breaking news can get a little daunting. Breaking news on North Korea, breaking news on Donald Trump stuff, it just doesn't end. So, but those of you that are reading websites like CNN, The Hill, whatever it may be, there are topics that you specifically are interested in getting more information about. So this is where we can throttle breaking news based upon the interest that you have and the topics you're reading on. So a lot of our clients send 8 to 10 breaking news a day. That can get a little overwhelming in an inbox. So this is where we can look at the content that you're reading, flag a user on their interest categories, and then scale back and get more personalized with the kind of content that you're getting. The way that we holistically look at it and believe is that there's an email revenue funnel. First, top-level view is how much first-party data can you get and collect on that user to create that personalized experience. It's just bar one, the way we want to look at it. Number two is look at the email audience size, the list size, which is going to determine how personalized can we get. But let's look at that right rail there, and that's how can we monetize. So one way is the promotional email that we send. Can be a big moneymaker for you. We've seen anywhere from the low end, $25 per 1,000 sent, all the way up to $150. If you've got something that is very niche, like a financial newsletter or something along those lines. And then the in-mail ad. I saw Power Inbox, I believe, is here this weekend, so they're a great partner of ours. So that's where you can put those ads within your emails. Site ads, obviously, somebody if clicks through, then you're going to get those impressions back on your website. And then finally, any kind of subscriptions that you're sending or trying to sell around direct life cycle that we talked about. So continuing down forward, though, or down from the top, the inbox rate. So that's where our delivery team will work with you to make sure you're getting the inbox rates that you should from the sends that you're doing. Open rates, that's where we look at the type of content that you're sending. Are you putting subject lines that are in there? The click-through rate, that's where we talk about the right content and personalization that we talked about a few slides back. And then finally, the conversion rate on the different products that you're selling. All of these are tied back, though, to your program KPIs. And some of the folks that we'll do is put together an actual ROI chart and make sure that there's a return that makes sense for you. The product personalization here, so what we want to do, we have a lot of on-site calls to action that we work with here. This is a really cool one for Fatherly. Some of you may be aware of that site for it's geared toward fathers, but a lot of mothers go there as well because they've got parenting content. So the very first thing you want to do whenever you show like a pop-up modal is capture that email address. Got to get that right away. But then step two, they want to know how many kids do you have, what's your kid's birth dates, those types of things to kind of send that further up communications that is more personalized. So what we do is step one, grab that email address, send that into your CDP, your email provider, whatever it may be. And then any kind of follow-up information on how many kids you have allows us to tailor those experiences. If that person were not to provide that on step one, maybe they X out, they come back 2 days later, we can provide that, capture that information downstream. Geo-capture, I loved this actually. So one of our clients, Fast Company, it was about a year ago, I was literally walking down the street here, and I went to their website, and I got an offer or an invite to the South by Southwest party. So this is, and we power their on-site capture, all their pop-ups and stuff like that. So this was served by us. I didn't know. I didn't end up going to the party, but I loved that it was so personalized because we were targeting people that were downtown and walking around at their website and say, hey, come to the our South by Southwest party. You're right around the corner. So this is just a great way to look at where people are and drive action specifically to where they are. I'm sure many of you kind of have the challenge of ad blockers and private browsing. So this is solutions that we work with. Adweek, one of our customers, I love what they do here. If you go to their website with your ad blocker on, they kind of try to beat you over the head and say, hey, you know what, support journalism. What are you doing? You're in the industry. Turn that ad blocker off. So it's very creative and tugs at your heartstrings. So the Chive, one of our clients, they do a great job at product personalization. So if you come in and you're looking at humor content or you're looking at any of the different categories, they're going to opt you into a newsletter specific to what it is that you're looking at, but also use a call to action specific. So we've seen increased conversion rates around 200% based upon personalized call to actions there. If you just go to the homepage, you're going to get the generic call to action. So this is just every way that our full service team that we have here works with them, come up with content recommendations, design recommendations, but also just want to make sure that you guys are aware of some of the things that are there to do. iHeart, great client, built this newsletter program from scratch. day one. They had no national newsletter program. They had this giant database, literally like 40 million email addresses that were just sitting on the table doing nothing. But all this data, they knew what people were streaming. So huge opportunity. So, what we do is, sign these people up, based upon two things. Number one, what do they explicitly say they want? And then number two, what are they streaming? So if I say I'm interested at sign up in the app in country, and then signal number two, if I'm listening to country, then that means that we're going to put you into the country newsletter. So this has been an extremely successful program, more successful than I honestly expected, and very proud to be a part of it. Then the other opportunity I see for everybody here is, I'm sure if you have a newsletter program today, are you cross-selling your other newsletters? If you've got multiple products, you can use a single-click subscribe tag there and upgrade those users into other products that you have. So just to finally wrap up, this is just an overview of PostUp, as we are as a company working specifically for publishers. I see us as 3 tiers. Number one, audience development. We go in and we help publishers grow their lists and their databases. I couldn't put it any more simply than that. Number two, content automation. We help distribute content through newsletters, through integrations with WordPress and other various CMSs to make life easier for editors. So many publishers I've talked to, they don't have the time, the resources to dedicate to email. It's not like other industries where there's titles called email marketing manager. It's not the way it works. We try to make your life easier. And then finally, consumer marketing automation. That's around helping you build out life cycles, sell your digital subscriptions, whatever it may be. So those are really the 3 tiers. And over there on the left is really where I live, which is our services and strategy team. So that's helping you get it done. All of your visions, bringing those to fruition. So that's really it. Thank you for your time today.